Hey everyone, welcome back. Ready for another deep dive?
Always up for a deep dive, especially into a text like we've got today.
This one's a bit special, right? Psalm 91, it's one of those passages that just seems to resonate across time.
It really does. It's powerful. Evokes something primal, don't you think?
Totally. I mean, he who dwells in the shelter of the Most High will abide in the shadow of the Almighty.
Just those words alone, right?
Right. Talk about imagery. It's like instantly calming. Like I could just picture it.
Yeah.
And that feeling of safety it brings, it's so universal.
It speaks to something deep within us, absolutely. And it doesn't just tell us, it shows us.
That's what I love about the psalm, so poetic. So how does the psalmist do that? Paint that picture of protection.
Well, look at the language. We're not just talking about safety, we're talking refuge, being covered under his wings, faithfulness as a shield and buckler. It's vivid.
It's like you're right there, surrounded by this impenetrable force field
Of divine protection. And that's not by accident. The psalmist is using these powerful metaphors, these images, to give us a visceral experience of God's presence, to make us feel that security deeply and personally.
It's interesting though, because for me, reading this, I always wonder about the context. Like, when was this written? What was going on that inspired such a powerful declaration of, God's protection?
That's a great question. It's hard to say for sure when exactly it was penned, but many scholars believe it was likely during a time of significant turmoil and uncertainty for the Israelites.
We're talking invasions, plagues.
Exactly. Think natural disasters, all those things that make people feel incredibly vulnerable. Imagine living in a time when danger felt constant, and then hearing these words, "He will command his angels concerning you to guard you in all your ways."
Powerful.
Very incredibly powerful. So it's like this psalm, it's not just some abstract theological idea, it's rooted in a very real human experience of fear and the need for security. Exactly. And it's meeting that need head on with this incredible promise, even in the midst of chaos, even when everything feels like it's falling apart. You can find refuge in God. You are not alone.
That's kind of amazing when you think about it.
Yeah.
And it makes you listen to those promises of protection with fresh ears, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It elevates the stakes. And the psalmist doesn't let up. Look at verse 7. 1,000 may fall at your side, 10,000 at your right hand, but it shall not come near you.
Wow. That's intense.
Right. The sheer scale of it, the specificity of 1,000, 10,000, it creates this picture of widespread chaos and destruction. Yet in the middle of it all, there's this unwavering assurance of safety.
It's almost paradoxical, isn't it? Like you can almost hear the battle raging around you, yet there's this sense of peace, of being untouchable.
Precisely. And that's the point. The psalm is inviting us to hold on to that paradox, to trust in God's protection, even when everything around us feels chaotic and terrifying, to find our peace in him no matter what.
It makes me think about that phrase, dwelling in the shelter of the Most High. That's not just about physical protection, is it? It's something more.
You're absolutely right. It's about seeking refuge not just from external threats, but from the internal ones as well. The anxieties, the uncertainties, all those things that can leave us feeling vulnerable and afraid.
It's about finding that place of peace within yourself, a place of trust and security that no external circumstance can touch.
Yes. And that's something we all crave, isn't it? That sense of being held, of being safe, no matter what life throws our way. That's what the psalmist is offering us here. A relationship with God so deep, so abiding, that we find our true security and identity in him.
That's a powerful image. So for everyone listening, what resonates most with you in Psalm 91? What feelings come up when you hear these words? What images come to mind? It's a question worth pondering because this psalm, it's spoken to people across centuries, across cultures. It's a symbol of comfort, of strength, particularly in times of difficulty.
It really is. And you see that throughout history, people clinging to those promises of protection, finding solace in the face of danger, of uncertainty.
And it makes sense, right? When things are tough, when you feel like the world's closing in, these words offer hope.
Absolutely. But it's also important to acknowledge that not everyone interprets the psalm literally. Some see it more metaphorically as a guide for navigating the inevitable challenges of life with courage and faith.
Yeah.
Meaning, they might not believe they'll be physically shielded from harm, but they do find comfort in the idea that they're not alone in their struggles. They carry that sense of God's presence with them through thick and thin.
It's about the journey, not just the destination.
Exactly. And that's a really important distinction because life, even for believers, isn't always easy. bad things happen. So how do we reconcile this psalm with its message of protection with the reality that sometimes we do experience hardship, even tragedy?
It's the age-old question, isn't it? If God is good, why do bad things happen?
Right. And there's no simple answer. But maybe it's not about finding all the answers, but about learning to live in the tension, to hold